you put down, the amazing accompaniment of musical instruments. And it's just so very it's rich, right? Like, don't it sound like I want to hear that on the vinyl, like right off the right off the wax.
I love the soundtrack.
Yeah.
How it just
Yeah.
you just close your eyes and just ride to it and kind of just sway to the music.
Yeah.
It's a different feel, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Thank you. I appreciate
for sure.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. So we're back with Lafuki and Divine.
Providence.
Yes.
Better this time.
Better second time around.
2 seconds of silence.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm your host along with Chris Connections. We got Ellen. One day, well, I know.
Oh, I didn't have the mic on. I was.
Yeah. So let's jump back into it. We're talking a little
Yes.
about food and everything. One of the things that we always talk about are most awkward food experiences and most excellent food experiences, along with what's in your refrigerator. We're going to show you guys some pictures of the refrigerator. Check the newsletter.
Nice.
You're not on it, get on it. You can do that on yumvillage.com or refrigerateddiaries.com. But let's hear it. No names, so no name dropping. You know, don't call out the name. Just say where you were at, and it's an excellent food experience or a awkward food experience. Most horrible,
Most horrible.
or the best.
I would say I cannot pinpoint a horrible experience. Maybe something that I made years ago, but I can't remember what it was. Plus, I don't cook that much anyway, so Tazine can attest to that.
We know,
But
we know that.
we
know.
we have the
Everybody
blessings. We have the blessings of knowing a lot of people that love to cook.
That's what's up.
Just this last week, and so we have a monthly like meditation session at our house, which has a meditation section, and then a potluck, and then a jam session. But all the time, just bound for someone to come with something very original and just out of this world. I mean, it's just every time doesn't fail. Whether it's Sri Lankan food, Pakistani food, I mean, just
Plus a jam session, man.
Plus
a jam session.
Dog, that sounds like
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
yeah,
It's
and,
the best of all worlds.
and,
You get.
and last year
I
we
need to
had
come to
at our house we hold events. Surprise. It was a conscious. Was it called conscious eating, or what was it called?
It was mindful eating.
Mindful eating.
Mindful
So
eating.
we were fasting. It was Ramadan and things like
Start
that,
for the
right?
name.
So we had people fasting, and they come. We had some special dishes.
It's a Sri Lankan family, and they make
Yeah.
these small bites of just really amazing food,
Yeah.
and then they explained all the flavors
Yeah,
and everything that
and
went
the
into
history of it, how it became that way, and things like that. So you're not only eating good food, but you're being mindful of what you're eating. So these are kind of people I'm hanging around with. So I'm always like testing different stuff and just enjoying it.
I would say my best experience is always at my mom's house.
Definitely.
Always. She
I feel
goat
you on that
curry
one.
at my mom's house. It doesn't get better
Save
better
me
than
a
that.
Go curry, let's
Goat
go.
curry,
Yeah.
and then you
Let's
do a
go.
fried
Yeah.
egg, and then the yolk runs into the curry, and then you just sop it up with naan, and it's just with ginger, and oh my god, it's just so good.
You should have brought some.
I
I know the way you described it.
I know. I
Working
know.
food.
Yeah. 9 fried egg on goat curry. Sign me up. Where it at?
It's so good. It is
Give
so
it
good.
to me.
Okay. All right. So, what do you guys think Detroit's music scene does for the city?
Oh my God.
Preserves culture.
Oh,
That's what it
I
does.
like that one.
you know what? I'm not from Detroit.
Okay.
I'm originally from California.
Okay.
And I came through here via Flint, which I was there for 16 years. But when I got to Detroit, the reason why I moved to Detroit because I knew my journey had to continue in Detroit.
You moved here because I said I wasn't going to move to Flint.
Well, that's one reason.
One.
But I knew Detroit.
Flint Town.
Yeah, Flint, love
block.
Flint.
It's just a block.
I love
Flint.
too. Them golden arches.
You know what? Yeah, I love it. But I knew that Detroit would have what I needed to pursue what I wanted to do. And when I got here, I had no idea the amount of support from fellow musicians and artists, I had no idea it was like that. So I'm meeting all these wonderful people, you know, that are just super talented. I mean, here in Ship and Co, you have Trey Priest coming through. You have Sophia E. And they are just two of many phenomenal artists in Detroit.
Right.
You know, and knowing the jazz history of Detroit is amazing. You know, so I'm always learning something new about Detroit. So I've been there for how long? I've been in Detroit. 5 years. So I'm just loving it. You know, I can't see myself being anywhere else right now. I'm from California, but it's oversaturated with, you know, the things that, you know about the housing and cost of living. I mean, you can do everything here in Detroit what you want to do. You know, use it for a base, yes. But you can do everything you want to do here what they used to be able to do in Brooklyn, artists.
Right. And there's that support system.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about ego with the artists that we know. It's everyone's putting up each other.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you're going on tour, it's like, you know what, I'm going to take this band with me too, or I'm going to take these artists with me too, or I'm going to connect these artists with other people that I know, or other venues that I know. And I feel like that's something special.
Yeah.
When we have people who visit Detroit and they meet all these artists, they're like, hey, we don't have that.
They think about moving to
It's
Detroit.
a lot of personality.
It
Yeah.
is.
We have artists coming from well-known artists coming from different countries. When they come here, sometimes they come to our house. You know, if we know them, because sometimes we do shows like that. They're thinking about coming to Detroit and moving to Detroit.
That's amazing.
You know,
I hear a lot of times too, just because every once in a while, you know, I still don't own a car. I just borrow Megan's, and so usually I just drive that around. But when I'm in an Uber, a lot of them are telling me like, "Yo, there's so many people moving here. You know, they're just not changing their address. They're just living in these."
yeah.
It's true. Like, no one's moving here. They're like, no, trust me.
They are.
It's going down.
They are.
You know, so Detroit's music scene, I love hearing that, and I have witnessed it. I think Detroit in general, there's like this camaraderie ship, like, yo, it's hard here. Let's help each other out.
That's it.
You know, but that doesn't take away from the things that still happen. You know, many schools that are running into budget shortages, cut their music program, and despite the cuts, people still figure out ways to grow and create new sounds. How do you feel about the schools for music? I know there's like a school of rock or something in Royal Oak, and there's the Detroit Institute of Music Education, a Mosaic Youth Theater, which I happened to work for back in the day, as well as a lot of just privatization towards continuing education with music.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that programs are being cut from schools. I'm in education myself. I'm a teacher. I teach Arabic. But studies show that kids who study music from a young age, they are so much more intelligent. They have more social skills. They're more able to function. They're able to focus better. They're able to memorize better at things. They're able to have critical thinking skills. Like, all of these different skills that you can get through music, like, you're not going to be able to get that from your other subjects.
Absolutely.
You know? And all kids should have that resource available to them. It shouldn't be that, oh, I have to have $1,000 or I have to have this much money a week to be able to get programming like that.
Another thing I would like to mention, that these schools that you mentioned, I would say that we probably need not only music in schools, but something that connects with the people that you're teaching. So we can't separate the historical content from the music that we're studying. And that's one of the things that could be missing in any schools, you know, like what we just talked about, the historical contents of it. It just didn't come out of nowhere.
I like that, though.
That's a good,
I never really thought about it. Like, do history, and then make people actually listen to the music that's going on during that time.
Right.
There's a Professor Wright, Professor Wright at U of M Flint, white guy. And the reason why I say white guy, because he was teaching just the history of jazz and rock. I took rock. It was so good. I took the jazz class, but he was giving the black experience with the origins of the music we listen to today. He said you have to know the history of these people in order to understand where we are today. Mm-hmm. And not only is he a phenomenal musician and instructor, he just gives first-hand accounts. Like when this band came to Detroit, he was there. So he was there actually listened to the music, like the Beatles or a lot of other bands like Funkadelic. He said he was there at basically every concert. He said, I don't know how I remember it because he was probably doing some stuff, but the historical context of the music should be emphasized, because right now it's becoming more wanting to push out rock stars. That's not what it should be about. Because a musician an artist should be about, he should be the interpreter of the society in which he lives, right. not just be a rock star. And that's probably one reason why hip hop has gone worldwide, because it relates to people in different lands. It relates to the oppressor,
the struggle,
the struggle. So
everybody knows that struggle.
Everyone knows that struggle, but it's not. We shouldn't think of it and hope they don't emphasize more of we need to push out rock stars than we need to push out people with consciousness,
who care about their
people, no matter where you're from.
Right.
Okay. So, question with like the different ways the world is connected today. You got social media, you got YouTube, you got all these different avenues that somebody from Japan can listen to hip hop here.
Right.
So how do you guys feel about that type of stuff where that you might have somebody who will listen to music from a specific culture and then kind of appropriate it and more so, and not even necessarily just trying to make money, but they just love the music and they want to participate it.
Right.
What type of homage, or do you feel like they owe anything to the original culture of the music?
I think the people.
You feel like they're somewhat responsible.
I
for
think
anything?
the people who, like for instance, I have a friend from France.
Yeah,
from France, and I said, "What kind of music you guys listen to coming up?" He said, in his French accents, I'm not going to do it.
Hit you with that rap, drill rap.
He said, we listen to like NWA. I said, wait a minute. I said, you listen to NWA? He said, yes, because they were talking about things we were going through. He's French Algerian, so he lives like in the ghettos of France.
Okay.
So he was saying that they understand what the Black Americans were saying. Is there one thing I don't think Black Americans understand? The gravity of what the influence they have in the world.
Yeah,
it's
a large
influence. It's a big influence. So he was saying we were looking towards the Black Americans to express what we were feeling, and hip hop, was the best ways of doing that. So, and actually, they're giving homage to hip hop, sometimes more than hip hop artists here are doing. Because hip hop was developed or brought about by dealing with structures,
right?
Like in the Bronx, So what we're going to do, we're not going to fight. We do hip hop. We're going to explain what's happening in our hood, and that's why was one of the reasons why NWA, when they came, they were so popular because it was saying, hey, Hollywood, LA is not about palm trees and beaches,
Not for us at least.
But when you say LA, you get this like.
This
amazing
look. But I can
image,
believe it though, because when I went into LA, you see the mountains.
That's true.
Yeah,
you just look around.
Yeah.
You see all of that.
Hey, I'm from the North Bay, and that's all you see. The mountains on this side, and the ocean
gorgeous.
and the bay on this side. It was like, oh my God, I actually moved from this place.
I feel it.
Straight to flip.
Yeah.
But
I would say though, it depends on who is using that music and what are they using it for, and like, are you paying homage or not?
You got to pay homage.
Is it for the love, or are you just trying to use it?
Are you just trying to use it? Are you just trying to be cool?
Yeah.
But you're not down with like actual
and
issues.
And I've had conversations about this with other artists about that. That some people they want to say they're from Detroit, but they're really from suburbs, and they never really performed in Detroit. I'm like, hey man, you really need to come to Detroit and just show your skill, and don't claim Detroit when you were in a different state, and you can say you're from Detroit, but you're really not.
But like
Yeah.
you're just in the studio.
Yeah, it's just in the studio. So
But we,
yeah.
I mean, we know some people who are from the suburbs, and then they come to Detroit at rap battles, and they'll win.
Yeah.
But it's just like, can you show that you have skill? A, but B, what are you using it for?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it can give. Do you know the history? Because we know artists. I don't want to mention her name. Ran into some trouble when she said something about hip hop, and then Q-Tip had to school her. Saying you have to be aware of the history
Right.
of hip hop before you criticize it.
You have to.
You have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
You have to give homage. Because these people, they weren't just hip hop artists. They were organizers. African Mabata. They were intelligent. They were people seeking knowledge. They were trying to uplift people.
Just movers and shakers in the community,
Yeah.
really.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. The realm of influence for the culture and just what that culture touches is huge. Even when I think of just the span of Afro culture into Africa, the natural hair movement was revived in Africa due to the natural hair movement here in the States.
Yeah.
Just happened.
Yeah.
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 Breaking news.
Until the Jerry curl came out, that kind of like.
But
one brother from Ethiopia said, "We should look at you brothers, and with the big afros when we were in Africa." He's like, "Yes, that's our brothers." And then when I got here, which is in the '80s, I saw Jerry curls. I was like, "Oh man." We could skip that part and just worry about
skip that whole little
the
section.
whole part,
Just,
No.
But yeah, it's the revival of Afrocentric thought. Is some of the things that we try to get back. The things that we lost at whatever capacity, get it and reinvent it in the way that fits us. And that's the essence of cool, right? You can't emulate the or the dominating class, so you create your own.
Yeah.
And that's where cool comes from. Is actually creating your own, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you dress.
Amazing. So before we go into next week and bid you guys adieu, want to ask you one last question. Does your son also cook in addition to play the drums like a madman?
I wish he can hear
That
this.
boy,
You
that
got
boy can make
cheese
grilled
melts?
cheese.
Grilled cheese.
He could do grilled cheese, and he can do ramen noodles.
Yes, all day.
And he can toast some bagels.
Yes,
In the broiler.
yes.
Okay.
That's about it.
You about to go to college?
He's in
He's
his first
he's
year
with
right
us,
now.
so
Oh,
he's reaping the benefits like I am. Just what's in the fridge?
Hey, I mean,
That is out
He
Don't worry
actually
about it.
texted me on our way here. Can you get me some cereal? I was like, no.
man, when I was in college, I started eating like that about 2 to 3 years straight. Throw some hot dogs in the
Hello,
mix and we'd be
yeah,
good.
yeah. Hot pockets.
I texted
No,
I was
no,
like,
Hot
eat some
Pockets,
real
no.
food.
Just
Eat
ramen
real
and hot dog.
You can buy a whole pack, the whole box pack. Just put in take it
Oh
out.
my God.
Yep.
Absolutely. So before we close out, any final thoughts? Where can people find out more about your work? Where can I listen to the album? Social media, now is a good time to throw those tags out there.
You can listen to us online. We're on Spotify. It's Lufuki, Lufuki, and Divine Providence. And we're also on Instagram, lufuki.divineprovidence. We also have a website, lufuki.org. Where else?
That pretty much sums it up. We're on most platforms.
We're also on Facebook,
Yes.
and we're pretty active. We gig pretty frequently around the city, so we're usually in Detroit somewhere. And you'll see us at Young Village.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
We're gonna bring in a lot of elements, so be prepared to be entertained, enlightened, and
right.
lifted.
Definitely.
Hey, real quick though, that song. What song was that? So people are listening. Luster.
So
Luster.
luster is you can get it better.
It's
Since you took the lyrics.
basically, so it's the song about this. It's basically Luster is singing to the beloved and someone who's lusting after them and saying, I know that you're here. And they're sort of like calling you towards them. And so on a surface level, it seems like it's just a very sensual song, but it's like this deeper connection that the divine has with creation, that we're always we're always attracted to something greater than ourselves. And it's like, are we actually following that attraction or not?
Okay.
Yeah, and it harkens back to Persian Arab poetry, whereas on the surface it's erotic, but actually it's a symbolism of the
Of
relationship
divine love.
of divine love,
Yeah.
of the creation and the divine.
Okay.
So that was less.
So there's no better way in explaining
Yeah.
that connection other than something we are connected with,
Right.
and that's erotic or sex
Yeah.
or something like that, something we can relate to.
Yeah, luster.
Lester.
Definitely. Well, when we come back in the next couple of weeks, we'll be continuing our conversation as food. It's always about food and music and art in some way, shape, or form. If you want to give us some suggestions, give us a shout out at Young Village or at Chris Connections, or, shoot me a message and we'll just forward it to Chris Connections. And we'll go from there. We'll see you guys on
Get
the
your
next
number.
Refrigerated Diaries. Thanks so much, guys. We appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having us.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Peace.